Um, that was one of the things that came into play when I said in 2007 we had a lot of people working for the company. The state has something called fair share, where every employer is expected to pay health insurance for their workers. And initially it was if you had 10 full-time employees. Obviously I'm a full-time employee of Dependable Healthcare. People in the office staff full-time. We have some people out on the field that are full-time. But I said, well, I don't think we have full-time. But again, you justify what your full-time is. If you say your full-time is 30 hours, that's fine. If you say it's 40 hours, that's fine. We know everything about 40 hours is overtime. So we had said, okay, we'll say 35 hours will be our own full-time. And if we have 10 people that have over 35 hours, that's obviously, we would fall into that category of having to provide health insurance for employees. But we ran into a very, very tight corner, because what had happened is, even though we didn't have the 10 full-time employees, and I said, oh, well, we don't have to pay. We don't have to. We would love to offer it, but we don't fall into the category. We were penalized because the state now said, no, we don't have to do it by the number of employees you have. We're going to do it by the number of hours you put in. So where you have 60 people putting a lot of hours, so they were not necessarily full-time, but these were a lot of hours because we had more people doing more work. So what happened at that time? They penalized us. You put in your hours, you put on the web, and they say, well, based on the number of hours you did this quarter, you owe the state $5,000. And you're sitting there saying, how did this just happen? And so we said, okay, fine. If we're doing this work and we need to offer health insurance, we will be happy to do that. But then our policy says if you work over 35 hours, then you qualify to get health care benefits, where you pay a portion of the premium and we pay some of it. But it was hard because we have people doing 15 hours, we have people doing 20 hours, we have people doing 25 hours a week. They don't qualify. And then the few people we had who were doing over 35 hours that were qualified for the health care benefit, they refused to sign up because they're looking at you and saying they want to go to Mass Health or Network Health and say, well, my employer doesn't offer health insurance. And they don't want it because Mass Health is free. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Network is free. All they have to say is, oh, my employer doesn't offer it. That's why fair share comes after employers. They feel you should be able to offer this. So we had a big problem.
Because you're mandated to
That's
offer.
right. And then I personally called the governor's office one day. I said, I do not understand this. It's becoming a problem. We are willing to offer health care. We have it. We have the policy in place. But, we have all the paperwork. But you can't have a policy in place when nobody wants it.
Right.
Where does that leave us? Well, in that case, you have to pay. You have to pay based on what you're doing. And I talked to the governor. I wasn't able to talk to the governor. They sent me to some other person because I was just tired of having to do that hourly thing. And then they say something to you. Say, okay, if somebody works for your company for a month, automatically that person is qualified. And I said, what about people who have full-time jobs? Let's say a nurse. She has a full-time job with a hospital. She does her 40 hours there. She has health insurance over there. She comes to Dependable as a per diem.
Yeah.
Picks up what? Hours here and there. And then you're telling us to offer her health insurance. She says, I don't need it. I'm already subscribing to, let's say, Marian Manor Nursing Home, right, or Mass General. Or some people say to you, I get it through my husband. So how do you really know who needs it? And I hope the state I hope they really sit down to really, put all these things I've said into consideration. Because
so there is a breakdown as to when it comes to people that are working per diem,
that's the thing.
As far as people who also have insurance from
spouses.
From spouses.
So now they're penalizing you and saying, well, but you didn't offer insurance to Miss A, but Miss A already gets it from Mr. A at a different company. So why am I getting penalized for this?
So you get penalized even if Miss A has insurance elsewhere.
Yes, they're saying you haven't offered it, or based on the number of hours you did this semester, this quarter,
right?
You owe this. But I've argued this, and I hope I hope more employers come out and talk about this. What if they're already getting it somewhere else? You're going by the number of hours. So if I have 50 people who are part-time let's say those 50 people get health insurance from their husbands or wives, but you say, no, I don't care. You have to have it in place. You still have to be penalized because they're doing this work. They still don't have a way yet of really, really, compiling what they need to compile.
Well, but somebody just simply bring in their health insurance a card that they have from somewhere else and showing say, this is what I have.
But that argument doesn't work with the state.
Shouldn't that suffice?
Because the state is dealing with numbers. They're not dealing with individuals. When you put that, it's done on the web. You go on their website, Fair Share, and it asks you for a number of employees, number of hours, and they can tell all of this because every quarter you send all this to the Department of Employment as well. So it's kind of tied together. They're not dealing with names and saying, okay, you put in 50 employees. That's a number to them. They haven't said to you, of these 50 people, how many of them carry insurance from
elsewhere?
Yes, from from other establishments.
Right.
See, it's a number. They're looking at that number. They're looking at those hours, and automatically you are penalized. So it really is a problem.
So actually, this businesses are being punished for offering jobs.
That's
basically.
Exactly. And I have said this to them. I have said this to this. I said, you're coming after me as if I'm an enemy. I said, we have 50 people who work here, 35 people who work here that are guaranteed employment all the time, okay? Why do I look like the enemy? Why does the state have to fight an employer like me so hard, especially with this fair share thing? Why? And then you have the other problem of unemployment where some people just feel, well, I don't feel like working in the winter, and don't go to work. And then they say, oh, well, I don't want to work. I want to collect unemployment. That's our insurance that we pay into. So it's, especially the fair share thing, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's a big, big problem. They have to get a system in place where they're not just looking at numbers, where they're not just looking at employees. They say, okay, just 50 people working. They put in 25,000 hours this quarter. Of those 25, how many already have insurance? How many are trying not to get insurance? Because we know people who say, we have 30 hours for you. Oh, I really don't feel comfortable working 30 hours. So it makes it really difficult. Like you said, sometimes I say, why is the state fighting us? Why are they fighting us as employers? What is the problem? What is the problem? Because if that's why sometimes I feel people say, I don't want to be bothered with that. Let me just go work for somebody, get my check, and go home. But it's the way it is. But right now, I'm happy to say we have health care in place. And if it's one person that wants it, that's fine.
Then you will
so that way, come over here, you look at it, we have it in place.
Yes. Well, anyway, I believe every employer in Massachusetts is mandated to at least offer health insurance. And there's also a paper that you sign saying that you're declining it or
you don't.
Not. But again, the issue of this, what do you call it, share time or
fair share?
It's
called everywhere. You are entitled to your fair share.
Yeah.
It's a fair share.
I don't know how. I don't know how fair.
I don't know how. They'll probably eventually. They might get it in place later, but like with I guess it all started from when they said free health care. I think that's where it came from. The state offered free health benefits, health care to every individual in Massachusetts, and I think they bit off more than they could chew. So now they're saying, everybody wants it. If it's free, why pay for it?
The thing about it is that in every new thing that is implemented, there's a trial period where, people are taking advantage until at a time when these things are sought out and eventually they put a good system in place. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You really have been an inspiration. Again, thank you. You are watching Afrik Express. We are going to round up now, and thank you for staying with us. And please do join us on this same channel, same time.